members of the gallery and the press, a very, very warm welcome to you. And also we have Councillor McLaren, who's zooming into Temora Shire Council's meeting today. So Councillor McLaren, we welcome you also. And I declare the meeting open. And this meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information. And all present today are reminded that while we're speaking, that we agree that our views and comments are being recorded and published. And we're also reminded that if or when we are speaking, that we're of course to be respectful to others and using the appropriate language. Temora Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting, which doesn't happen, so that's good as gold. We now go to our opening prayer, and that is in the hands of Pastor Darren Kupke. Thank you, Pastor Kupke.
Thank you, and welcome to you all. Just aware that there's plenty of floods around at the moment, wheat crops that look like rice paddies, and I'm sure the council's very aware that there's many roads that need repair, so I thought it was appropriate to focus on the rains and the floods at the moment. From Psalm 69, "Save me, O God, for the floodwaters are up to my neck. Deeper and deeper I sink into the mire. I can't find a foothold. I'm in deep water, and the floods overwhelm me. I'm exhausted from crying for help." And Jesus says, "Anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is like a wise person who builds a house on solid rock. Though the rain comes in torrents and the flood waters rise and the winds beat against that house, it won't collapse because it's built on bedrock." And Psalm 29, "The Lord rules over the flood waters. The Lord reigns as king forever. The Lord gives his people strength. The Lord blesses them with peace." So let us pray. Heavenly Father, we pray for people and places where the flood waters are rising. Also for those that may be anxious or fearful of what is coming. Grant your peace and safety to all. Provide safe shelter and protection this week. Bless, guide and protect all frontline workers and those in authority making decisions. We thank you for your generous gifts. However, we feel you've been too generous with the rain just here at the moment, so we ask you share it with those in need. May we receive less than being forecast this coming week. We also pray for our Shire and our Council. Guide their discussions, decisions and deliberations. Bless them as they serve our community. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Pastor Kupke. Always a good way to start a meeting. Thank you. Councillors, we have an apology from Councillor Bushell, and that is all the apologies I think we have at this time. So is someone prepared to move that apology is approved, please? Thank you, Councillor Good. Councillor Judd moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Any declaration of any interest, please, at this time? If not, Councillor McLaren.
Non-peculiar interest in confidential item 19.5.
Yes. Thank you. No further declarations at this time. If not, let's proceed to confirmation of the minutes of the September meeting of Temora Shire Council, please. That they be approved as a true and correct record. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, has moved that way. Is there a second for the motion, please? Councillor Good, thank you. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed to the mayoral minute, and I commence with the following. Temora Shire Council, together with our community, continue to mourn the passing of a former Citizen of the Year of Temora Shire, Mr. Colin Nesbitt Pike. And Mr. Pike is synonymous with trotting, with he and his best friend, the late and great Paleface Adios, proving to be an inspiring partnership, one that put Temora Shire quite literally on the map. Council and the community owe a tremendous debt to the late Mr. Pike, his wife, Mrs. Shirley Pike, and his family, and of course to the Temora tornado. However, may it be of some comfort to them all to know that that special partnership of Mr. Pike and Paleface Adios will continue to be immortalised in Paleface Park, which sits right in the very heart of our Temora township. Council is deeply honoured to have Mr. and Mrs. Ian Pike in our midst in the gallery today with their son Stephen, and of course we have their daughters in the chamber as well. And what I would further say is that may all of the family know the collective prayers and thoughts remain with you all. And Mr. Pike will live on through his family and in all of our collective hearts. And as a mark of respect to the late Mr. Pike, I ask all of us assembled into the chamber to please rise in our places to observe a moment's silence. Thank you very much. And again to Mr. and Mrs. Pike and some of the members of your family, thank you for making time to be with us in the chamber for that special tribute to a Temora Shire treasure. And I think you know where our collective hearts are at this time. So thank you, and you are welcome to stay to be inspired if you would like, listening to the business of Temora Shire, or you can take your leave. I know you're all busy as well, so that's up to you. You can take a while to think about that.
Thank you very much for that.
No, thank you. Thanks very much. Councillors, the further Merrill Minute number 2. Council is advised that after a recent workshop in relation to one regional organisation, the following in principle position was reached by both boards of the Riverina Eastern Regional Organisation of Councils, REROC, and Riverina Joint Organisation. That option 4, which was REROC stand alone and Riverina JO goes into hiatus, be adopted, and that the joint organisation will cease taking on new projects from the 31st of December. It should be noted that Wagga City and Lockhart Shire and the Riverina Water County Council had an alternate view. The next steps will be both boards will formally consider this at their board meetings on Friday the 28th of October, with a final recommendation to be formally considered by member councils prior to the end of the year. I thank Council for their contributions thus far on this important matter, and further that I have informed the New South Wales member for Cootamundra, the Honourable Steph Cook MP, the Shadow Minister for Local Government, New South Wales, Mr Warren, and the Regional New South Wales Director, Mr Butler, of this in principle position. I formally extend a warm thank you to Council's engineering managers, our engineering staff and the outdoor staff for the manner in which they are handling the extraordinarily poor state of sections of our sealed and unsealed road network. Although I believe the pothole situation is not as tragic as some other shires across the state, these consistent flooding and rain events remain a cause of much frustration for us all. But staff are doing their best, and Council will continue to lobby our federal and state members of Parliament to ensure we receive our fair share of the Repair Fund grants. And I also acknowledge and thank the Shire community for showing patience as Council continue doing our best to carry out repair work as funds and the weather allow. And finally, as Council are aware, our General Manager, Mr Lavelle, will be retiring from his current role from the 1st of July 2023. I advise Council and our Shire community that the General Manager's recruitment process timeline has now been determined. Advertising will commence for our new General Manager from Thursday the 9th of February 2023 with a closing date of Monday the 6th of March 2023. There will be a shortlisting process carried out with interviews of suitable candidates conducted on Wednesday the 12th of April of 2023. This is a crucial part of Temora Shire Council's next chapter, and I know as councillors we all have a strong commitment to this important process. And councillors, I will move the mayoral minute be noted. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Good. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much, Councillor. Let's go to page 11 of your white business papers. The Temora Traffic Committee meeting, and someone move that those minutes please be received. Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Seconder, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much, councillors. Councillors, you see several items that are listed there that were considered by the committee. Any comments? If not, is someone prepared to move the report and its recommendations, please? Councillor Oliver, Councillor Reinhold, moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Councillor McLaren's right. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, we go over to page 27, the minutes of the Assets and Operations Committee meeting, and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, is the Chairman.
Mr Mayor, I move the report be received.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, has moved that the report is received. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, did you have anything you wish to highlight as the Chairman of that committee?
No, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you. Councillors, any comments? Councillor Irvine.
Just in regards to the Stronger Country Communities Fund application regarding Temora Lions Club, I don't think there was any issue at all with the project and the support that the councillors have showed the project, although the short time frame meant that it couldn't be brought to a council meeting for a resolution on the matter. Might I ask that in any of these future ones that electronic correspondence be undertaken between councillors so that all councillors are aware of these situations as they unfold, because we have got that facility and it just wasn't taken up at this instance.
Well, thank you, Councillor Irvine. I'm not sure whether you're aware that there is a policy in relation to this matter, and the General Manager or the Director, are you able to articulate that? Thank you. The Director of Administration and Finance.
Yeah, so through you, Mr Mayor, I believe the policy suggests that if the time frame's too short, that the Mayor and Deputy Mayor would be consulted, and they kind of endorse the decision, and then it's ratified by Council at the next opportunity.
So thank you, and that's something that was only newly introduced, and it doesn't, I mean, I've got to say, it doesn't happen often, but just of late with, in recent years, the tsunami of grants that have come our way, it's been, well, unprecedented, so thank you. Any other comments or questions? If, Councillor McLaren's right, if not, is someone prepared to move the Assets and Operations Committee report and its recommendations? Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Oliver, moved and seconded. Further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillors, we go over to page 44, the Economic Development and Visitations Committee report. Now, Councillor McLaren is the chairman of that committee, but she has asked if I can just take you through it. Councillor McLaren, you happy to move that the report's received?
Yes, I will move that way.
Thank you. Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Good. Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor McLaren, as the chairman of that committee, do you have any items that you wish to highlight? Please.
No, Mr Mayor, the report is as read.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillors, any comments, discussion on the Economic Visitations Committee? If not, is someone prepared to move the report and its recommendations, please? Thank you, Councillor Good. Councillor Judd, moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to council. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, over to page 166. Delegates' reports. Do we have delegates' reports, please? So page 166. So I'll go to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. On the 17th of September, I had the privilege of representing council at the Airy Park preschool opening, along with Councillor Judd. Yeah, typical of Airy Park. They really put on a very good show. They had well, plenty of food and drink for a start, but yeah, quite a good crowd there. And very impressed with the school. I missed the opportunity to have a look at it during its construction, and yeah, it was very impressed with the layout, the size of it, and the layout and everything. So congratulations to the Airy Park community. So yeah, money well spent. As I said it today, on the day I said now that the big job is now is to make sure they keep enough young children going through it. So. Also had a couple of meetings, 21st with the liaison, the Rural Fire Service Liaison Committee meeting. There was a bit of discussion about the Red Fleet and so forth, but they were concerned about councils, or the council RFS relationship, and I said it's not so much about Rural Fire Service, it's more, our beef is more with the government and particularly the Treasury. And so they were quite happy to hear that, I think. Lake Committee on the 5th of October. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of discussion there, but on the 8th of October, I was at the Art Prize, Temora Art Prize opening, official opening. Very well organised. Down on exhibits to previous years, but still very good. The quality of the artwork was outstanding. And I have to commend our Denise Clements, who's titled as the
Art Centre Manager.
Art Centre Manager, on a very well run night. Yes, and everyone there commented on the way she'd put everything together, so that was very good. As on the 14th, the Re-Rock JO one organisation meeting, as the Mayor pointed out in his mayoral minutes, the results of that day, and the 18th we had the Australia Day Committee meeting, which yeah, is going along nicely, but got everything in line for that, so it's all good. The other thing I want to raise at the moment is tomorrow was supposed to have a function with FarmLink at the TAIC. That has been cancelled off this afternoon because there was no councils except myself going. So it was decided it wasn't much point in doing that. The question is, do you want it cancelled altogether or just a new date selected? So, I mean, there's no, if council's not interested in going out and see what's going on, have a talk to them, there's no point having it. So, I'm just interested in the comments around the room whether we'd like the fund to come for another date for that function, or just not worry about it.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thanks again for you've had a busy last several weeks as well. In relation to the FarmLink meeting with councillors and senior staff, I think reading the chamber, I think that everybody would like to see it rescheduled, but I suppose the qualifier is, you know, that like anything, that if it's on and we all do our best. I've got meetings in Wagga, which is unfortunate. I know other councillors have got other commitments, and it's just a very rare occasion that there's only the one that's able to attend. But am I correct, councillors, seeing the nods in the chamber, that you'd like it rescheduled? And again, we do our best, as we always do, to be there. Councillor McLaren?
Yes.
Happy? Okay, thank you.
Just further to that, was there any particular reason, like I was just wondering whether the time didn't suit people, would it be better if it was a bit later in the afternoon or something like that, or, yeah, just be interested to get some comments on that I can pass on to FarmLink.
Well, just some comments that I've heard, perhaps the latter parts. Councillor Good.
Fridays are always out for me. I'm in Narendra on Wednesdays and Fridays, so I can't obviously go there on those days. Any other day I would have liked to have gone, yes.
Thank you. So, yeah, so perhaps on those days, but perhaps I know Councillor Oliver has commitments with bus, so sort of 5, yeah, so I would have thought 5 to 5:30 seems reasonable, councillors-ish. But again, it all depends on what everyone's doing, but at least that's worth a try. But please, Mr Deputy Mayor, pass on to the FarmLink that council are very committed, and as I know you are aware, but just reinforce that, yeah, it's just everyone's so busy. So thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Further delegates' reports? Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. On the 29th of September, I represented Temora Shire Council at the Police Remembrance Service over in Wagga. As usual, it's always a very moving ceremony when you hear the names read out. Not very well attended this time. I'm not sure, maybe the weather had something to do with that, but yes, it was very well run and all very moving when you hear those bagpipes. They were outside the church and just sort of playing the bagpipes, and you could hear it in the distance. So it's yeah, very nice service. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to go. Thank you.
No, thanks, Councillor Oliver, and of course, Councillor, we ask Councillor Oliver to represent us, as he's been the chairman in recent years of the Police Consultative Committee. So thank you, Councillor Oliver. I just had, besides obviously my reports at Council C, but in addition, we had the Sports Council delegates meeting last night, and we've resolved to, from next year, proceed to bi-monthly meetings, which seems to be, and then the executives still continue to meet every month, but meet every second month. So that's something, well, a first that I can remember. Councillor Good used to be a treasurer years ago, but so yeah, we'll be introducing that. And just one I wanted to mention, councillors, it's a very busy Saturday in Temora Shire, and but one of the things I wanted to mention that I am able to attend now is the ambulance. Retired ambulance officers are having a medal ceremony out at the Bundawarra Centre, the Temora Ambulance Museum. So I'm very much looking forward to attending that event because evidently they're coming from all over the state to Temora Shire, which is very special indeed. No further delegates' reports, councillors. If not, let's proceed over to page 167, the Mayor's report for the month of September. And there's a recommendation on page 170 that the Mayor's report be noted. Thank you, Councillor Reinhold and Councillor Good. Thank you, moved and seconded. Is there further discussion In the further discussion, councillors, I just want to also extend at this time to Councillor Reinhold that the prayers and the love of all of us in our council and our community have, of course, been with you and your loved ones on the loss of your father, the late Mr. Baden Reinhold. And I know that I remember the day, Councillor Reinhold, when mother and father were in here when you were sworn in. Very special occasion, and I know, and all of us know, you'll continue to do him proud. If there's no further discussion, councillors, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, over to page 171. Motion, please, to receive the staff reports. Councillor McLaren has moved that way. Seconder, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Further discussion. Sorry, no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 172, the General Manager's Report, 11.1, Calendar of Events. The General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As read, councillors, apart from there were a couple of changes in the October timeframe, as you're aware, the Freedom of the Shire presentation and the Murphy's Road naming ceremony were deferred, and they haven't been re-established the date on that as yet. And
These till the 15th.
oh yeah, and the decision had been made to move the committee meetings to the 15th. That was a decision taken at last week's meetings. So aside from that,
And the walk and talk.
the walk and talk. Oh yes, of course, the walk and talk was put off as well. So the rain hasn't done us a lot of favours right the way through. But anyway, the rest are pretty well right. So for council's information.
Thanks very much, Mr. General Manager. Just also the November the 18th is the New South Wales Country Mayors Association AGM, if we can add that. So councillors, in relation to the walk and talk, we felt that we could consider that again in the, we thought it wasn't much point in doing it for the rest of this year, but we can discuss about date options in the first quarter of 2023, if council's happy with that. And also working currently with the family of the late former Shire President Ian Murphy and his family in relation to the road naming ceremony, and also the Freedom of the Shire. We're working with Councillor Judd, Mr Spears and Mr McRae in terms of rescheduling that, and I think we have a tentative date in early March, the 3rd of March. So, but anyway, and it will be proceeding rain, hail or shine. Well, that's what I would like to see, but anyway. Councillors, with those many amendments for the calendar events, is someone prepared to move the recommendation with those amendments, please? Thank you, Councillor Good. The Deputy Mayor moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go to page 173, 11.2, Elections 2024, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It only seems like yesterday when the last elections, but we're required a minimum of 18 months out for an election, which will be in September 2024, to determine if the New South Wales Electoral Commission will conduct the elections on our behalf. This has been the way that the majority of councils in the state go. It's generally only the very large councils who have the ability, and only a couple at that, who have the ability to run the elections themselves, that go that way. There is a change to the report that down where it was, Temora was grouped with with Hilltops and Cootamundra-Gundagai. They have advised us that has changed, and we're now with Narandra, Coolaman and Junee, which is the group we were with before. It's a far better fit for us because they're all roughly the same size council, whereas we would have been in with two amalgamated councils, quite large amalgamated councils, which might have meant we're at the bottom of the pecking order in terms of vote count. So I think we're far better off in the grouping that we're in. So at this stage, there's a need, if councillors of that mind, to advise the New South Wales Electoral Commission that we wish to engage them for the next election.
Thank you. Councillor Judd, you're happy to move the recommendation? Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? I'm sure that that the New South Wales Electoral Commission, their fees, you know, who knows, they may even be reduced for this new election.
Yep.
If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 174, 11.3, the Code of Meeting Practice, the General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This is the Code of Meeting Practice that we looked at a workshop last week. The changes have been made and that is required to go out on public submission or for public submission for 28 days. And the recommendation is that it be put out for public comment.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Councillors, you have a report and recommendation there for you to consider. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Move the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. So the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, has moved the recommendation. Seconder, Councillor Good. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Councillor Judd.
I think it's very good to see in our new code that meeting by Zoom by absent councillors can be formalised now, and I think it's going to open up the way in future that might encourage other councillors and future candidates to put their hand up, because not everyone can be here all the time, and if you can attend by Zoom, it could be a good thing. I applaud the move.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Judd. I support those remarks. Ideally, of course, we all know we want to be here, but yeah, for those exceptional circumstances, there would be, if this policy was adopted, that provision to allow them to zoom in. So if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 231, 11.4, the operational plan, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is the quarterly review for the first quarter of our operational plan. Usually not a lot can be gained from the first quarter because a lot of them are ongoing programs and won't have been completed as yet, and probably more particularly this time, but it's been wet nearly the whole time. But if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Councillors, comments, questions for the quarter one review? If not, there is a recommendation, councillors, on 231. Councillor McLaren, was your... Councillor McLaren, sorry.
Just a query on whether the next signage committee meeting will be, just because there's a couple of items in there that are referring to the signage committee.
Sorry, what committee, Councillor McLaren? I didn't quite catch it. Oh, the signage, yes. Thank you.
On page 266, there's an action for some entrance signs to reflect Indigenous history that to be considered by signage committee, and there's also another item on page 280 that is a review of public toilets directional signage to be considered by signage committee. So I just thought those couple of items we might be able to convene a signage committee meeting in the next couple of months.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Does the General Manager have a comment? The Engineering Assets Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think it's possible. Alex is sort of, I guess, okay. The Engineering Works Manager is...
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess our nominee for the signage committee, but there is some crossover there. I believe at least one of them action sits with me. So I'll have some discussion with the Works Manager and we will pencil in a date.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and thanks, Councillor McLaren. Councillors, any other comments? If not, there's a recommendation, councillors, there for you to consider that the quarter one review be noted. Councillor Good is moving that way. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Oliver, thank you. Moved. Seconded. Further discussion? If no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion. Oh, my pen's run out. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Nothing of an urgent, late nature, Mr. General Manager?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, let's now proceed to page 316, Engineering Services Report, and we have nil to report. So let's go over to page, nothing of a urgent, late nature, Mr. Manager or Mr. Manager? No? Happy? Thank you. The Engineering Assets Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Minor in nature, but I just had the primary school call mentioning that they were going to undertake a colour run, which is pretty much informal. Some powder gets thrown around at some kids, I think, and it may make a slight mess in the park. I think it's happening on Friday. If it rains, it's not going to happen. If it does happen, the rain will wash the rest of it away. It's just so that if anybody asks or are there any questions, that's what's happening.
So some sort of powder. So is it itching powder or just powder?
It's actually natural pigment, so ground rock or something. I don't know, but it's nothing to worry about.
Oh, okay, right, thank you. The councillors are happy with that, as much as you can be. Councillor McLaren, yep, okay. Thank you. Let's proceed over to page 317, Environmental Services Department Report, 13.1, Proposed Service Station Mural, the Director of Environmental Services. Well, just before I introduce, is there any councillor that wishes to declare any interest? No, thank you. I go to the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Following up on a resolution of council back in March 21 that slipped through the cracks, it was resolved to refer it to our Heritage Advisor for comment, the proposal. It was a busy, hectic time for council in the middle of a COVID pandemic when the Heritage Advisor wasn't attending on a regular basis, so apologies for that one slipping through. That's now been done, and the Heritage Advisor's report is in italics in bold on page 317 for council's decision.
Thank you. Now, I've had a conversation with Councillor Irvine in relation to this, that he did mention that this hadn't been considered, and I did take that up with the General Manager and the Director, and did apologise for that, and the staff, of course, have apologised again in relation to that. And so obviously it's a proposal that come to Council when, or prior to Councillor Irvine's time on Council, as the proprietor of Irvine Signs for that mural. And there was a resolution, as you saw, that took place at that time and date. You've got the report there for you to consider. Sorry, Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got two thoughts, and I'm not quite sure whether it should be referred to the budget process for, for the community strategic plan updating next April, May, or whether it should go via the signage committee to discuss the development of the idea further. So I'm not quite sure which way to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Well, I'll start, maybe I'll follow on Councillor McLaren. I think that the general principle of that, I think, is a positive one. However, I can't see that Council has any role at all other than saying that we support the concept. I don't believe that council should be getting involved with any funding of any description, in my view, unless it may be something that the Heritage the Heritage Committee rather, may wish to consider. I don't believe that is appropriate at all. I think it would set a ridiculous precedent. But again, the general concept, if the owner of the building wished to proceed with something like that, that would be fantastic. I don't know whether the Shell proprietors that are wanting to, of course, have their subway, I would have thought that would be a fantastic opportunity for them. But again, that's just a personal view, of course. But other than supporting the concept, I think it's a matter for the owner of the building. And if I was the owner of the building, I suppose one of the other questions I'd ask is who pays the ongoing maintenance if there was something there when it eventually needs a facelift or an improvement or some such. But anyway, they're just my initial thoughts, councillors. I'll go to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think as far as council is concerned, all we can perhaps do is approve the concept in principle, providing it meets the heritage guidelines of the main street. There's a lot to be looked at that side of it, but it's a private wall. It's not something council has no authority or responsibility for it, so I can't see that council should be putting any funds towards it. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm prepared to move a motion that the council approve the concept in principle, providing it meets heritage guidelines.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Oliver, thank you. Councillor Oliver, you've seconded the motion. Discussion, go to Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This type of painting is not without precedent in town. The Heritage Committee has, in the past, contributed to various painting. My time on Heritage Committee, we approached owners of buildings in the main street and encouraged them to repaint the front of their building, the bit that goes on the front the street. There's the Goldera T sign that was on Cornford's building, so I don't see it's without precedent. However, all of those, and it was the painting of the front of the shops was very successful, and it encouraged people to encourage paint the front of their street, which really lifted the look of the street. However, Heritage Committee generally limited the amount that they paid on those, and there has been various amounts, but it's generally sort of around that $1,500. It would be beneficial for something to happen to that wall, because it is a wall that's been neglected for a great many years. And the issue is it's not owned by the people who own the Shell service station, it's owned by the building next door. I would imagine the cost of painting that would be quite substantial, and that's probably why it's been the way it is. So I think we should, as the motion was moved, that we should support it in principle, and probably let the owners know that there is heritage funding available for doing various work, and then see what happens.
Thanks very much, Councillor Good. Look, and on that one, my business, we took that up, and I think Councillor Irvine's business prior to him being on council did that for us, and Mr. O'Callaghan, and it was a terrific initiative and a great help. And again, I think that's a great reminder. Thank you. Further discussion on the motion?
Yes,
Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I I just want to reflect on the great work that Coolabah Shire's doing in Main Street, and they have quite a few murals on the side of their historic buildings that really tidy up their Main Street so that there's no ugly sort of vista within their main historic, Main Street, and it's very tidy and neat and well maintained. And the side of that building is in the centre of one of the main blocks in town, and it's all flaking, and it is quite unsightly. All traffic that heads south through the Main Street casts their eye to that wall. So I know it's a private building, but in terms of the aesthetics of our town, I think it does warrant council perhaps encouraging it to be tidied up. Whether it's just repainted plain, I wouldn't mind that either, but it is quite in a bad state and it reflects badly on our Main Street. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren, and I'm sure that if this motion passed, I'm sure the Heritage Committee would take that on. Again, as Councillor Good alluded to, they had a successful program last time and perhaps consider something similar. Councillor, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I just wonder, perhaps could add to that motion then that we be referred to the Heritage Committee.
Further that the
report or
the proposal or the
proposal, I guess, be referred to the Heritage Committee.
I'll just if you can hold that thought, Mr. Deputy Mayor, the Chairman of the Heritage Committee is the Director of Environmental Services. Do you have a comment in relation to that, Mr. Director?
No, that's quite within our remit to comment on.
Yeah, okay. So you're happy to add that? Councillor Oliver, you happy to add that?
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. I don't see any problem with that.
Okay, thank you. So Mover and Seconder are adding that further the proposal is referred to the Heritage Committee. Further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll put Councillor Irvine.
In regards to this project, it's a massive project in its own right. It would be extremely expensive to do anything meaningful in that location, and it would require grant funding to undertake it. We've got basically a vacant absentee landlord in possession of the property who is reluctant to spend anything at all on the property, as is demonstrated by the state of the property as it presents at the moment in the Main Street. This is one of the most prominent drawbacks that I can see from an aesthetic point of view within the Main Street at present, and it's the most unkempt wall that is in that precinct. These things have a great long tail value. I've been involved in multiple projects of this type, most notably one in Ganmain, and it has appeared on calendars, it's appeared on council's website, it appears on multiple social media platforms, and it really does just enhances the amenity of the area no end. And currently, in a lot of programs, there are significant amounts of grant funding available for specifically these type of public art projects. So I really
Councillor Irvine, sorry for butting in. You are walking a very fine line here, as far as I'm concerned.
Look,
but
quite frankly,
Irvine?
Mr Mayor, I put this proposal forward prior to coming to council, and I'm quite prepared to see other artists given the same opportunity. I put forward a proposal that would address the issue with the skills and obviously the experience that I do possess, and I would put myself forward as an expert in that area.
That's right, and that's why I'm
obviously,
Councillor Irvine, that's why I'm counselling
yes.
you
So
to
obviously,
be very cautious.
If it was to run through any other process, it would have to be a clear and transparent process, and I wouldn't expect it any other way. But what I am saying is that public art does deserve consideration in these matters, and this particular wall is of, it could be a great asset to the community in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Irvine. And again, you are quite right that that was something that slipped through the cracks, and again, those genuine apologies have been provided. So if there's no further discussion, we'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no, and declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. We go over to page 321, 13.2, the draft local orders policy. The Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This policy is up for reconsideration. We've gone through and marked up some suggested changes, for Council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr Director. Councillors, you have the draft local orders policy there before you and a suite of recommendations for you to consider. I go to Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll just move the recommendation that we place it on exhibition for 28 days.
Thank you.
Receive a future report. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Reinhold, you've seconded the motion. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. I declare that motion carried. Thank you very much indeed. Councillors, let's go over to page 341, 13.3, Urban Design Guidelines for Regional New South Wales. The Director of Environmental Services.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Our town planners alerting council to this guideline on urban design. Probably more for noting than anything, and that's the recommendation.
Thanks, Mr Director. Councillors, you have the report, the recommendation there for to consider, that being that council note the report. Councillor Good, you move that way. Thank you. Second for the motion, please. Councillor Judd, moved and seconded. Further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thanks very much. Let's go over to page 343, 13.4, the Temora Agricultural Innovation Centre Treflay Shed. The Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I was absent from last council meeting where this issue was raised. We have a proposal to rectify the issue out there that's a lot less than the $12,000 for the upgrade, and I'm recommending that council rescind the decision and allocate a reduced amount of $1,500 towards the works.
Thank you, Mr Director. Go to Councillor Good.
I'll move that way, Mr Mayor.
Oh, thank you. So you'll move the recommendation at the bottom of page 343. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Irvine. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Further discussion? Further discussion, Councillor Irvine.
I certainly support the idea of that. The only question is, do you see the above ground bunding? I can see that being effective from water ingress into the tank. Do you have an opinion on whether you think there's a significant groundwater issue in that location which may further cause infiltration via the rubble drain element of that septic and then render the above ground works perhaps not effective?
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I go to the Director of Environmental Services.
No, not subsurface moisture. I think there's a channel beside it that was overtopped in a serious rain event. So I think if we can increase that bund as well too, that will go a long way towards alleviating the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Thank you, Mr Director. Councillor McLaren has gone offline, so we'll...
No, I'm still here.
Ah!
I was just having a bit of watermelon.
Right. There she is. She's back. Thank you. Yes, and I'm assuming she's appropriately attired. So it's been moved by Councillor Good, seconded Councillor. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Councillor Irvine. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare that motion carried. Thank you very much. Anything of an urgent late nature, Mr Director?
Nothing, Mr Mayor.
No, thanks so much for that. Councillors, we go over to page 344, the Administration and Finance Department report, 14.1, records for destruction. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the report's as written. Happy to take any question.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillors, you have report and recommendation there for you to consider. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor's moved that. Seconded, Councillor Oliver. Moved, seconded. Further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Page 349, 14.2, Debt Recovery Policy, the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the policy was considered at the workshop last week and a few minor amendments were made in accordance with Council's requests. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillors, you have a report there for you to consider. Is someone prepared to move the recommendation? Is there an alternate? Councillor Good.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Judd, thank you. Moved, seconded. Is there further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Councillors, let's proceed over to page 360, 14.3, Investments Policy Draft, the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the investments policy, again, as discussed at the workshop last week, Council requested that I look at what our maximum exposure was for any one institution. So that is currently sitting at 44% with NAB, which is rated A1 plus or AA minus. There was some discussion at the workshop about capping the maximum amount that could be invested with any one institution. So I'm providing that information to you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. I'll go to Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, thanks very much to the Director for this.
Thank you.
I would like to see a cap on the amount council invests in for one or institution. I'm just referring to page 364 at the risk management guidelines, and on that page, the first two risk management guidelines refer to the preservation of capital and a diversification issue. So I'd like to see added to that policy the requirement that no more than 50% of council funds be invested in any one institution at any one time. I think that's prudent to not have more than half of our investment funds within the one organisation just for a risk, addressing any risks. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLaren. Just before I go to the Director to comment, Councillor McLaren, if you say after you hear some comments wanted to move that direction, would you be willing to consider, unless exceptional circumstances by way of resolution of council or something like that, or is that you're firm on what you've just articulated?
I would move the policy with the addition of that limit, and then at any time in the future, if the Director was so had that wish, then I'm sure a notice of a resolution would come to council for us to consider. So
okay.
Whether you incorporate it in the policy or not, I don't mind, but
yeah,
I would like to see it in there.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McLaren. I'll just go for a comment before I ask councillors for view. So the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the percentage of funds with NAB at the moment is 44%. That has been as high as 70% in the past at times, and it is because their rate is so much better than any other institution. So by capping the amount we can allocate to any one institution, while it's minimising your risk, it does come at a cost of reduced potential returns.
Thank you, Madam Director. Do you have a response at this time, Councillor McLaren? Are you wanting to listen?
Look, I have been thinking about the percentage, and I was thinking of either 50% or 60% at the most. So I would be favourable in potentially going to 60%, but I think any more than that is just a bit too much to risk preserving our capital.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLaren. Councillors, do you have any thoughts in relation to what you've heard? I'll go to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think we're more at risk. Like the four major banks are pretty solid banks, and if they start going down, our whole economy is in a bad way, I think. I think there's more risk at the minor banking institutions and with the lower ratings of losing, perhaps not as much money, but there's a higher risk of losing whatever they might have with them. I don't have any great issues with having a high percentage in life, particularly the NAB anyway. Like, yeah, I wouldn't worry me if it was 70%. I'd be quite happy with that. Now, I think, as I said, the risk of something going wrong, I would have thought is pretty minimal.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Other comments, councillors, in relation, it is important policy. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, I agree that were there to be a major malfunction at one of the four major banks, it would be absolutely a crisis in the Australian financial system. However, it's not without precedent in other countries, and I think this is public money we're talking about, and I think preservation of capital is probably the most important element of it, and making income off the investment, whilst it's necessary to keep up with inflation, it is, it's got to be weighed. So I do agree with Councillor McLaren, and I think 50 to 60% with one institution is probably enough, and I think the other institutions are offering returns, so it's not as though you're foregoing any return, you're just at a slightly reduced rate, but it does spread the risk, and I think with public monies and significant amounts of it, I think it's probably fairly prudent to spread that risk if we possibly could.
Thanks, Councillor Irvine. Other comments, or if there's no other comments, I'm happy to receive a motion for Council to consider. Councillor McLaren, did you wish to put a motion forward?
I'd be happy to put the motion forward that we adopt the report with the inclusion of a maximum of 60% of council funds invested with any one institution at any one time. Thank you.
Thank you. And you didn't wish to add that unless... sorry.
Unless exceptional circumstances exist.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. So just the Director, you...
Through you, Mr Mayor, I was going to say that the policy needs to be reviewed by Council annually in any case, so...
but if there may be an occasion, though, if in the interim, though... That
it could come back to Council if... What do you think about that, Kerry?
The General Manager?
I think just the timing. You're not going to hold off putting an investment out for 3 weeks to get back to Council. The lost interest would overcome the benefit. So, in other words, I don't see a benefit in having a review back to Council.
In exceptional circumstances, though. Sorry, Councillor McLaren.
Would that policy of needing to make an executive decision without the, so council can endorse it at the next meeting, would that policy apply to a decision like that?
Well, I think that was only... Thanks, Councillor McLaren. I thought that was only related to grants. Is that right, Mr General Manager?
Could you repeat that, Councillor McLaren?
I wondered whether that policy we referred to earlier in the meeting about the Lions Club grant, whether that policy only referred to decisions on grant fund applications or application of funds, or whether it was a general policy.
Thank you.
No, it just relates to grants, not to investment. If you look at our delegations, you'll notice that council council have to make decisions on certain things, but there are provisions for emergency decisions, but that wouldn't fall into that category. If you're talking, because the difference between the various quotes are only 25 basis points or something.
Thank you. So we just craft this motion, Councillor McLaren. So we have here on the screen, it is recommended that Council adopts F3 investments policy with the inclusion of a clause that council invest a maximum of 60% of funds with any one institution. Is that what Councillor McLaren, what you'd like?
Yes, that's good.
Okay, thank you. Now, is there a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Irvine, thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Can I have a
Councillor McLaren.
the loss of any interest would only be on, we could invest up to the 60%, so we'd only be out of the market on the amount above that 60%. And at the moment it's only either gone up to about 70 or 77, so we'd only be losing it on, that 10% above the limit.
Thank you. Yeah, so the director's nodding. Okay, further discussion? If not, I'll go to Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just where it says council invest a maximum, should it say council only invest or up to a maximum? Something like that?
Council invest, yes, up to a maximum. Yes, I think that's a good point, Councillor. Is the mover and seconder happy with that inclusion? Councillor Irvine, Councillor McLaren, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, we'll put the motion. And as the director said, councillors, that we review it formally in 12 months, but council can review any policy at any time it so chooses. So I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. With the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. And thanks so much for that. Councillors, we do have an urgent late report, which I'm sure will get the blood boiling, curdling, etc., etc. And that is, again, from the Director of Administration and Finance, 14.4, Accounting for Rural Fire Service Assets. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the saga continues. I'm not sure if Council have had a chance to actually read the report, so I'll just run through it quickly. So Council's financial statement audit is all but complete. We're just awaiting final sign-off from the auditors. Indications from the auditors have been that we will receive a qualified audit opinion for refusing to bring our RFS assets to account. The irony of all of this is that late last month we actually received an independently commissioned a report that was commissioned by the Office of Local Government to get an independent opinion on whether councils control the RFS assets. That report was published in April 2018. No council ever saw it. It was only shared with other state government departments. And the conclusions in that report were that the RFS does indeed control the assets and that they should be bringing them to account on their financial statements and recognising that as a prior period error, and that councils should be de-recognising them and recognising that as a prior period error. Anyway, that was never shared with councils. Updates were not made to the code to reflect the outcome of that report. And, around about 50 odd councils are going to receive audited financial statements this year, despite that professional opinion that the Office of Local Government has. So my recommendation there is that we continue to lobby the state government departments to have legislative change so that the situation can be resolved. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillors, words fail us, they really do, in relation to this. It really does, and of course Mr Parker isn't exactly just Mr Joe Smith down the street, obviously a highly credentialed individual, otherwise he wouldn't have been asked to do the report for the government in the first place. You didn't have, no. Yeah, I'm going to keep calm. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm just reading the bottom of page 5. Those questions that need answering, and they do need answering. How could government come up to a different, a totally opposite opinion to what the report was made? Just yeah, like I said, it's just unbelievable. But we talked about this. It's like some sort of a joke or I don't know what it is, but it's just ridiculous. So anyway, I'd like to move the recommendation, and that's.
Well, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, but I just wonder whether we should be more specific as opposed to lobby. Like, to me, this is something that, you know, our state MP, who I know wears another hat as a Minister of the Crown, but the LGNSW, the country mayors, REROC, even the opposition relevant ministers, I mean, I don't know what their views are, and I think that, you know, they should be sought as well, but the Deputy Mayor?
Actually, it'd be nice to get that, have those questions answered.
Mm.
So
Exactly, as listed.
yes,
1, 2, 3, 4.
so send those questions to the relevant people, organisations, and ask them for a reply.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. So have we captured that? And local government, sorry, because it's three. It's the Treasurer and Shadow Treasurer, Local Government Minister and Emergency Service. I'm going to, once we get this right, I'll ask for a seconder. And while we're getting it right, or trying to craft it, the General Manager.
Yeah, I was just going to make the point that at the Local Government New South Wales conference next week, I'd say this would be a very hot topic. I know there's a lot of councils want to get to have their say on it, particularly with the ministers going to be there and the shadow ministers going to be there. I think there'll be a lot of questions asked in relation to it.
Thanks, Mr General Manager. There certainly will, and I know that other groups of, you know, regional organisations, state bodies, etc., are making representation. But at the end of the day, we've got to let it be known what this council and community think, and we've got to stand up because the timing's everything. So, is the Deputy Mayor how that is reading that council continue to lobby member for Cootamundra, LGNSW, the New South Wales Country Mayors, REROC, Shadow Treasurer, the local, yeah, because you're sort of looking at both, you know, the actual Treasurer and Ministers and the Shadow Treasurer and Ministers.
You've got the Minister for Emergency Services, which was a step.
Yeah. But at least that separates though. For legislative change in regard to accounting for rural fire service assets, and further that council requests answers to the questions outlined in the report. I suppose that would be. Oh, sorry. Well, I can't really discuss it until we get it right. So is the Deputy Mayor happy with? In the report, thank you. So you're happy with that now, Mr Deputy Mayor. Second for the motion was Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Discussion on the motion, Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
That's wrong.
I don't think we should limit the names in there because obviously we're sort of, everyone's suggesting names now, but I think we should leave it open so that, you know, we can lobby those, but if something else comes up, we can lobby them as well. And I think if we just say that we continue to lobby, like the report initially said, continue to lobby for the legislative change in regard to accounting for rural fire service assets. Then if we think of someone else we can lobby, then we have that option. We don't have to come back to council to do that. Because I see this as limiting who we can lobby rather than lobbying the right people.
Right, well, I suppose, Councillor Good, why I've suggested it to the Deputy Mayor is because those were the players, excluding the shadows, of course. They were the Treasurer, the Local Government Minister, the Emergency Service. I mean, they're the ones that have carriage to varying extents over RFS, and that's why when LGNSW, New South Wales Country Mayors Chairman, met with them to talk about RFS, they're the three key folk.
Yes, I understand that, Mr Mayor, but I do think it's limiting to who we can lobby. And after the meeting next week, LGNSW may say we need to lobby these people. Then it will have to come back to council for us to approve that.
Unless we add and FOTHER and other organisations or government departments. Yeah, but I take your point, Councillor Good. Thank you. So is the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Oliver happy to include that? Thank you. So thank you very much. So discussion on the motion, the General Manager.
Oh, just a couple of things. The first one I was going to suggest maybe to say that a bit of a hybrid motion is recommend that council continue to lobby for legislative change, including those others. That gives you a scope. But the other thing is the Minister for Emergency Services, that's supposed to be the Shadow Minister for Emergency Services, as our local member is the Minister for Emergency Services.
Sorry, Mr. General Manager.
He's saying that
it says to lobby the member for Cootamundra,
Yes.
and then further down it says wait on that. You've just put it in there. I was going to say,
So that's right. I know you were waiting for a while, Mr. General Manager, so yes. Okay, while you're pondering, Mr. General Manager, I'm going to Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wondered whether we could expand it to the funding and in regard to the funding and accounting for the Royal Fire Service assets, because I've got a great concern about how they actually fund it and then palm it off to local councils. I feel that the funding as well as the accounting are major issues.
Doing something about that. Thank you, Councillor McLaren, but I understood that we've already, I think your notice of motion, that's already been acted on, hasn't it?
Oh, I just thought we could continue the pressure, that was all.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll go to the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Oliver. Are you happy with what you see there, or would you like anything further, or we can have a separate motion if that's the will of Council? The Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to see it left as is. I think anything else should be a separate motion.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, I think we should also acknowledge the council that had the initiative to have a freedom information request in relation, or a GIPA as it is, which was Bland Shire, as I understand, the Director.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. So the way that council actually came into possession of the Parker report was that the Director of Corporate Services at Blandshire actually put a GIPA request into the Office of Local Government and requested a copy of this report. Probably 2 years ago, we'd heard rumours that the Office of Local Government had this report, but yeah, nobody had ever been able to lay their hands on it. So yeah, she put in a GIPA request and actually received a copy of it, which was great. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, well done, Blandshire. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor McLaren, did you wish to put a...
Oh, look, I've just heard recently that the calamity of the funding, they've just been ordering new fire trucks, and because the fire trucks are bigger than the old ones, they don't fit into all these nice new sheds that they've built. So they have to build new sheds. So the funding and the efficiencies of the decision making, I think, is pretty important, but we'll do that another time in another motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. And also the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Judd, and the General Manager will be representing Temora Shire at our conference in the coming days, and no doubt there'll be a report furnished back at, pardon me, and I'm sure we can discuss that further at that time. Thank you. Nothing of an urgent late nature from the Director of Administration Finance?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you very much. Councillors, let's now go to page 369, correspondence 15.1, Area Park Advisory Committee, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you can see there, councillors, we have another application for the Area Park Advisory Committee. That's Julia Davies, and would recommend that we acknowledge that application and appoint her to the committee.
Thank you. Councillor Judd.
I'll support the recommendation. Mrs Davey is a young mother in town, and we're just, but most importantly, get the younger generation involved in our committees. So I'll move that motion, please.
Thank you. Councillor Judd and Councillor Reinhold seconded the motion, which is the recommendation that Mrs Julia Davey be appointed to the Area Park Advisory Committee. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 370, 15.2, the Young Regional Conservatorium of Music, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is an approach from the Young Regional Conservatorium of Music, which, as you know, is operating out of the old Generosity Church in the main street. It's been a great addition to the landscape in Temora. And they've offered several opportunities for council to sponsor or provide a bursary or a number of options there that would show council support for the organisation.
Thanks, Mr General Manager. And just councillors to know how we got here, that I remember the Conservatorium invited me to attend a function in December. And that was, I just found it a real eye-opener, and what was particularly eye-opening is the fact that there was several Temora Shire youngsters that were students, which I didn't realise, and they're talking to other different communities that saying that they are part of sponsoring scholarships to varying extents, both, whether it's councils, businesses, families, etc. And I just suggested that that perhaps council may like to consider something. So, to credit to Dr. Brooks, she's had a meeting with the General Manager and I recently just to talk more about it, so we had a bit more of an understanding. And to her credit, she's put in a submission so councillors can determine if it's appropriate to consider sponsoring a scholarship or a bush bursary or whatever it may be. I'll go to Councillor Reinhold.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Okay, I went down to number 6, sponsor an event, and where they could use the town hall. And I thought, well, this is perfect to save council's budget. We could put it through the Imagine Committee and use $1,000 from the Imagine Committee, if that suits council.
Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. The General Manager, did you have a comment on that in relation to Councillor Reinhold suggested number 6, sponsor an event, and perhaps it could be funded under the existing Imagine Temora budget? But what's the comments, General Manager?
Look, that's up to council. It could certainly occur. Similarly, a bursary could be given, or a bursary assistance, which is helping people who don't have the means to attend the tuition on a regular basis, or a scholarship. It's up to council which way they wish to go in that.
Thank you. I do commend you, Councillor Reinhold, for looking at ways that we can save on the budget bottom line. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I think it's well worth supporting in one way or another. And us to look at the bursary assistance and perhaps allocating or donating $400 or something like that towards the bursary assistance. I know that there's probably a lot of students out there that are probably quite talented, but maybe in a situation where they don't sort of have the funds, the family that mightn't have the funding or so forth to yeah, for the fees, the tuition fees and so forth. So I thought that maybe it'd be a good help for those who might otherwise miss out.
Thanks very much, Mr Deputy Mayor. So you've had a couple of suggestions, councillors, from the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Reinhold. I'm sort of gleaning that there's a mood to want to support and do something. It's just a matter of what council feel is appropriate. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, I actually had Councillor Reinhold's suggestion penciled in as well. I think I hadn't considered using any of the Imagine Temora budget that's been allocated. That'd have zero impact on our donations budget, but it certainly is worthwhile showing support, particularly with the great investment that the Young Regional School of Music have made in the Temora community. So I'd like to second Councillor Reinhold's suggestion that we sponsor an event to that tune of about $1,000.
Thank you. Well, if someone would like to move a formal resolution, we're happy to consider it. Councillor Reinhold.
All right, well, I will. I'd like to move that we sponsor an event for a Young Regional Conservatorium of Music to sponsor an event in the Temora Town Hall with the fees taken out of the Imagine committee budget.
We funded out of the Imagine Temora, and that's for the Temora Shire or students that reside within the Temora Shire. Is that right? Or sorry,
Well,
this is an event. I beg your pardon.
Yes,
I beg your pardon. Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Reinhold.
Yeah, to a maximum of $1,000.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine, are you seconding that? Thank you. Councillor Irvine has seconded the motion. Discussion. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in regard to the use of the hall, that would be, I imagine that they would leave the hall in the state that they find it in, nice and clean and tidy, so we don't have to send someone in to clean it up, I would have thought.
Well, thanks, Councillor Oliver. I would think that should be part of the discussions if this motion was to pass. Yeah, thank you. If there's no further discussion on the motion, I will put it to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thanks very much. Let's go over to page 373, 15.3, the Temora Little Athletics Club, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's an application from the Temora Athletics Club for sponsorship. As you can see there's various options, 3 events, 6 events, 10 events and so on. In the past we have taken up the 6 event option for $100.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Councillors, you see the request there, and what we did, the last time it was held was, in 2019? Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that we contribute $100 towards their events. I think we should do that before inflation catches up to these people, because it's still the same as what it was back in 2019. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver. You've moved that way. Seconded, Councillor Judd. Moved, seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 375, 15.4, New Year's Eve, the General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This is the New Year's Eve pool party. There's no impact on Council's budget. They're just seeking approval to have the event.
Thank you. Councillors, what's your wish in relation to the request? Councillor Oliver.
I'll move that we accede to their request.
Thank you. And Councillor McLaren, you're seconding the... Thank you. Councillor McLaren has seconded the motion. Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Councillor McLaren.
Can I just ask, is there a free event for the community?
Question about notice to the Director of Administration Finance.
Through you, Mr Mayor, so it's funded through the Community Grants Program, so a condition of that program is that the event has to be free or only a nominal fee. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Couldn't afford to do it otherwise, Councillor McLaren. I don't think anyway. Thank you. Moved and seconded. If there is, Councillor Reinhold. No? Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, I shall put the motion to. All those of that opinion, please say aye. For the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 376, 15.5, event application, the General Manager.
Yes, on a similar vein, Mr Mayor, no impact on Council's budget. They're not requesting anything except the use of Callaghan Park for their market stalls.
Thank you. Good to see these events starting to come back. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I'd like to move the request be granted.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Oliver. Moved, seconded, that we accede to the request. Further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. 378. We go to 15.6, Australia Day Pool Party, the General Manager.
Similar to the New Year's Eve party, just seeking approval to hold the event at the pool on Australia Day.
Thank you. And this again is another event, as I understand it, that's funded through the state government. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Judd.
Just move approval be granted.
Thank you. Councillor Judd's moved that way. Seconded, Councillor Good. Moved, seconded. Is there further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Mr General Manager, is any urgent late... sorry, we do. Yes. We do. I beg your pardon. There's several. 15.7, event application, the General Manager.
Yes, Mr Mayor, this is an event application for the Temora Town Markets that'll be held on Sunday the 20th of November at Callaghan Park, and they're seeking the use of that venue. The only assistance they require is 4 event bins, which is $32, but they will pay that fee.
Thank you. Councillors, you have the request before you for your consideration. The Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, I'll move that we accede to their requests.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Reinhold. Move Councillor Oliver, second Councillor Reinhold, that we accede to the request. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare that motion carried. Thank you. Further item late correspondence 15.8, event application, the General Manager.
Yes, while on the subject of events, this is the V8 Super Boats, which have got two meetings, Friday the 4th of November and Friday the 3rd of December. Council's been a regular supporter of the V8 Super Boats, held at Lakes and Tannery, but there are costs there. But I would say that in the past, Council have resolved to provide those free of charge as an economic development or tourism initiative, but that's a matter for Council to determine.
Well, thank you, Mr General Manager. They haven't formally requested that at this stage, have they?
They haven't formally requested, but it may well be, the application may well be made on the basis of an assumption.
So if Council wished to consider donating these costs back, would those funds come out of the economic development budget or the donations budget?
No,
General Manager.
They would come out of the donations budget.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to move that if the V8 Superboats request that we provide those items free of charge, other than the deposit, of course.
So we approve the application and further that, subject to...
if provided it's made.
Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. Councillor Good has moved that way. Second for the motion. Councillor Irvine, thank you. Moved, seconded. Discussion, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. The costings that are here, is that for both events or is it just for one event and times two?
Thank you, Councillor. My understanding was it was for both events, those costings. Is that right, Madam Director? Or
Is it for?
it's both events, I thought. The Director, can you...
Yeah, as the events are so close together, the toilets would stay in situ and probably the bins as well too. So that would be the total cost.
Thank you. Moved, seconded. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Irvine. Councillor Good, Councillor Irvine. Moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. That Council approve the application. Further items requested be provided free of charge on request. Or yeah, Councillor Good.
It's not quite right because they haven't made an application at this stage, I understand from, is that correct?
I'll approve the application to use Lake, isn't it? Is that?
Yeah.
The General Manager?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then and further, should they request the items listed, that they be provided free of charge.
So, thank you, Councillor Good. The General Manager?
Yeah, Councillor Good, they have requested the use of the equipment, but they haven't gone that extra step and asked that it be provided free of charge.
Thank you. So, Councillor Good and Councillor Irvine, are you happy with what you're seeing on your screen? Should they request the items? Well, we don't waive fees. Yeah. I'm just hearing Councillor Smith saying that. Upon request. So the mover and second are happy. Thank you. Moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. We'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, 15.9, event application of the General Manager.
Yes, as you can see, Mr Mayor, it's a event application for the Temora High School. They're having a More Than a Run Movember fundraiser out at the lake, or they wish to, on the 26th of November, and they are requesting the use of Lake Centenary between those hours.
Thank you very much. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
As Council approved the request, providing
subject to
the Lake Committee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're happy to move that way, Mr Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Judd. Thank you. Moved, seconded that Council grant approval subject to agreements from Lake Centenary Management Committee. Discussion, Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have discussed the use of Lake Centenary at length last time, I believe, about the wedding.
Which isn't happening, I understand, at that venue now.
Is this going to be an exclusive use, or just they're going to use it and other people can use it as well? Because 26th of November would be, it's almost summer. It would be a time when it would be used. I was out at the lake on Sunday morning, and there's a lot of people who go out there. Yeah, I'd like to know whether it's going to be exclusive, whether they want it exclusively, or whether there would be other people be able to use it.
Thanks, Councillor Good. Good question. The General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Good. No, it won't be exclusive use, and we'd make that very clear that it's not. They'll be running around the walking track and whatever, but it won't be exclusive use, no.
Thank you very much. Well, if there's no further discussion, Councillor Good.
I'll just say, while we're on the topic, I had several people congratulate council on the weekend about the walking track and how good it is and what a great asset it is for council. One person also said they thought it was probably the best thing that council's done.
So all compliments are gratefully received. So thank you, Councillor Good. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. I'm assuming there's no further late urgent correspondence, Mr. General Manager.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillors, we proceed over to page 379. We've received a notice of motion, Hoskin Street carriageway upgrade from Councillor Irvine. Councillor Irvine, you're on.
Yeah, I've just asked for an update. The surveys have been in the street. From Transport, I imagine Transport are looking for feedback from Council. We've got a large range of projects occurring in that space that are affected by the carriageway upgrade.
Sorry, Councillor Irvine, I'll just get you to formally move your... Sorry, your
okay, well, I'll move that Council staff provide a report to Council as to progress of planning for Hoskin Street carriageway upgrade.
Thank you. Second for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Good. Moved and seconded. Now that we've got that, we can discuss. So I go back to Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, and even to the point that it's mentioned in our strategic plan in a number of locations. There's a commitment on page 304, there's a commitment to the long-term facilitation of efficient heavy vehicle access through Temora. And on page 305, there's another mention of a seek funding for a roundabout, which is all relevant to this project. And obviously, I think the planning's going ahead, and I think they're talking about completion by the end of 2023, 2024. So I'll just be interested to hear what the project's up to.
Thank you. Councillor, I understood that this was happening as a matter of course. However, if Council wish this to be formalised, then you may do so. So, discussion on the motion, notice of motion. If no further if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the... Sorry, all those of that opinion, please raise your hands. Thank you. Declare the motion carried. Now, no further notices of motion that we received, so business without notice of an urgent nature. The Deputy Mayor. Happy? We'll go to Councillor Reinhold. You're happy? Thank you. Councillor Oliver's happy. Councillor Judd?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I did mention earlier that great to see that code of meeting practice adopted with having Zoom facilities confirmed. I would like to say, move that, or say that we really need to upgrade our Zoom facilities. Right. I know when I was up at Cairns, I zoomed in and all I could see was the back of executive assistant's head and director's head. And
even though they're very pretty, you'd like to see something else.
If you want to participate properly in a meeting, you need to be able to see the mayor and other councillors so you can participate, see what's going on really. So I'm hoping that will take place. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, thanks, Councillor Judd. Good point, and it's great that that is underway. Thank you, Councillor Judd.
Second one, just a report on. Did have occasion to travel up the Hill Highway on the Friday of the long weekend, and there was water still running across the road between Wyalong and Forbes, and there was stop go on the one lane. And our engineers might be interested to know that the, I don't know what you call them now, DMR men were working flat out. We were crossing the water and it's about 100 mils deep and they were dropping tar into the holes underneath the water. So I don't know whether it works or not, but anyway, that's what they were doing. So I just,
Write that down.
anyway, it's just interesting to see how they handle it, and it's probably the only occasion they got to do it. So anyway, I'm not going to get the movie out and take a picture of it. So.
They'll be up on charges. No, thanks very much, Councillor Judd. Councillor Irvine? Happy? Thank you. Councillor Good, you're happy? I, oddly enough, don't have anything. Councillors, we go over to page 382, Councillors' information paper. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Sorry. I go to Councillor McLaren for business without notice. I do apologise.
It's all good, I have nothing to contribute.
Rats. No, thank you. It's again, sorry. Now we go on to 382, councillors, our information paper. Is someone please move? Councillor McLaren has moved its adoption. Councillor Good moved, seconded. Further discussion? Any items? I go to Councillor McLaren.
Just a comment on the first meeting of the Arts Advisory Centre that we had recently, and the minutes are on page 433.
Thank you.
Just to say it was a really good meeting, and everyone was very impressed with the Arts Centre manager. She was very efficient. She created an online application for the art prize thing, and she's just been warmly received by the users of the centre, and she's doing a great job.
That's great. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. And further to what the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, had said about those compliments, we are hearing that on a regular basis, and it's lovely to hear. And I commend Councillor McLaren, who actually rang me to tell me how impressed she was with that meeting, and glowing reports about our Arts Centre manager. And I suggested that perhaps she should ring the manager and tell her, and she did exactly that, and rang to tell me so. So thank you, Councillor McLaren, for that, because it is important that we get enough brickbats thrown at us, some of them deserved and some of them not. But when those warm compliments are there, we need to share that with particularly those that are the kind words are being said, and shout that from the rooftops. So thank you very much. Any other items, Council, in the information paper? If not, I'll put the motion to that it is adopted. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act 1993, I advise that there are several matters listed that are deemed confidential, and accordingly I require a motion to have those matters considered. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, seconded. Councillor Oliver, moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. We're in closed session. We resume into open council, and I advise that the following motions have been brought forward by council from closed session to open session. The motion to move into confidential session was moved on the motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Oliver, and the motion was carried. Minutes of the Traffic Committee held on the 11th of October 2022 on the motion of Councillor Reinhold and Councillor Irvine. It was resolved that the reports be received, and the motion was carried. On the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor Reinhold, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted, and the motion was carried. Minutes of the Assets and Operations Committee meeting held on the 11th of October 2022 on the motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Oliver, it was resolved that the reports be received, and the motion was carried. On the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor McLaren, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted, and the motion was carried. Minutes of the Economic Development Committee held on the 11th of October 2022, Councillor Irvine declared a non-pecuniary interest in relation to item 22-1193 due to being a brother-in-law to the applicant. On the motion of Councillor McLaren and Councillor Irvine, it was resolved that the reports be received, and the motion was carried. On the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor Judd, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted, and the motion was carried. The General Manager, Mr Lavelle, declared a pecuniary interest in relation to item REP 22-1183 due to discussions on the new General Manager's remuneration package. Mr Lavelle left the meeting at 5:52 p.m. and took no further part in the discussion. General Manager recruitment. On the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor Oliver, it was resolved that Temora Shire Council adopt a total remuneration package, TRP, and relocation allowance for the new General Manager as per the report, and the motion was carried. The General Manager returned to the meeting at 6:01 p.m. Councillor McLaren declared a pecuniary interest in relation to item REP 22-1222 due to being a committee member of Dr Parry Memorial Homes. Councillor McLaren left the meeting at 6:02 p.m. and took no further part in the discussion. Expression of interest, Apollo Place. On the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor Reinhold, it was resolved that Council 1 inform Dr Parry Memorial Homes Incorporated that they are the preferred applicant. 2, commence formal negotiations with Dr Parry Memorial Homes Incorporated to facilitate the development of land at Apollo Place. And 3, advise unsuccessful tenderers of Council's decision. 4, that Council assists Dr Parry Memorial Homes with sourcing any grant funding. And 5, that negotiations with preferred applicant ensure that Council's costs are fully recovered. And that motion was carried. Councillor McLaren returned to the returned to the meeting via Zoom at 6:21 p.m. Sundry debtors, write-offs 2022. On the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor McLaren, it was resolved that the fees and charges listed be written off, and the motion was carried. ICT strategy. On the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor Irvine, it was resolved that Council does not accept the strategy in its current form, and further that a new revised report be brought back to Council, and that motion was carried. The General Manager declared a pecuniary interest in relation to item REP 22-1226 due to discussion on housing options for the new General Manager. The General Manager left the meeting at 6:34 p.m. and took no further part in the discussion. Housing options. On the motion of Councillor Irvine and Councillor Good, it was moved that Council endorse the housing options outlined in the report and that potential options be discussed with the successful applicant. An amendment was put by the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Judd, and it was moved that Council offer the 3-bedroom residence in Baker Street for a period of up to 6 months, and further that negotiations are held with the new General Manager regarding future housing requirements. The amendment was put and carried. The amendment became the motion, and that was carried. The motion of Councillor Good and Councillor Judd, it resolved that Council moves the motions from closed business into open council, and the motion was carried. On the motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Reinhold, it was resolved that Council moves out of closed session and into open council at 6:56 p.m, and the motion was carried. Now, may I please have a motion to formally accept those resolutions in open council? Thank you. Councillor Judd, Councillor Good, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Any further business, councillors, senior staff? If not, I thank you very much for your attendance. You've all done very, very well, considering the volumes of business papers that we've had to consider. And I do declare the meeting closed. Thank you.